Okay, so starting. So screenshots. The last video I sent late. Sorry about that. So take your time, but those for those the screenshots piling up. So please try to do that. Send the screenshots for the previous labs. Oh, and let's go ahead. As usual in the slides, I just for the job market you need to do certifications, and this is 462, and you will be paying $85 if you still have this email and you register your exam from this email. And the rest of if you're going for system administration job, this is the track I would recommend. That you should have 3 exams for MCSA 2012, VMware VCP 6, VMware certified, Cisco certified, basic CCNA certification, because in the market they are looking for multiple skills, and ITIL version 3. This is just for running an IT department or how processes work, and the Citrix certification for application virtualization. Some of the skills, and now the cloud skills are also there actually, and there is Microsoft Azure and Amazon Web Services. Those skills are also in demand. So this is just current market overview, what skills are getting the job. And back to SQL Server, this is available in every environment, so definitely we should have SQL skills. And if you give the exam, that's even better. But if you just show that at least that yes, I can handle SQL Server, and after today's lab, all the labs are high availability or disaster recovery labs, where if you lose one SQL Server node or a server, a physical machine or virtual machine, then you can still be able to give services from the other one. But let's just try to reach there now. And I think it's still April 22, right? So very few classes left. And I'll be uploading some extra. If we're not able to make it in time, I'll be uploading the topics to you, so you could just repeat them, go through the labs. Okay, so configuring and managing SQL Server instances. There were some topics left, and very important topics. Well, every chapter is important, but there were some bulk insert topics, related topics left. So I'm just gonna go directly to those. Before that, this is just an overview of all the basic, most used SQL Server commands. So there are 3 general methods you can use to copy databases to other servers: copy database wizard, backup and restore. That's where one of the last lectures, backup and restore. Publish database by using generate and publish scripts. But we last time did go through this. Where I wanted to go was to export the data from the tables, and then how to import from tables any data, and we were trying that. But now there are some smaller and easier scripts to understand the concept, or what are the scripts to do that, and smaller ones. There were if the book I recommended, if we go through the book, it's kind of, well, not everything will work straight out of the box. You run that script and there's going to be hundreds of errors. So I had to change that procedure a little just to understand the concepts. Migrating SQL logins, this is the next chapter actually. So after some of the import export scripts we're going to test, after that we're going to talk about SQL logins or the security of the SQL Server. So I'm just gonna try to go ahead, and yeah, there it is. So copying and exporting data. The first script we wanted, these are some of the commands we need to make sure we understand, because when we talk about database, of course, it's data is going out and coming in, or we at any time we would be asked to export data, this much data in this specific format to this application, or import data from there. So SQL Server 2012 provides several tools that you can use to perform bulk copy and bulk export and import operations. These tools are as follows. So BCP command. So we're gonna just try that the easier way now, just to understand the syntax. Then the bulk insert, transact SQL statement, and open row set bulk. We're going to talk about that. This took my two hours, but I'm just going to explain what happened, and it's a very nasty one. Open row set. Okay, integration services, import and export wizard, and then select into. Every command has its own purpose. Well, overall, yes, we are importing, exporting, but there are differences in the way we do that. Then using the SQL Server import and export, the SQL Server, we can use this, the DTS wizard, is a component of integration services. Import and export wizards enables you to migrate data to and from the following sources. So many of the applications connect through this object linking and embedding database, all DB provider, SQL, Excel sheet, Access application, Microsoft Office applications connect through these. So we're going to be trying to, or at least I will try to show you, and you know, where the problem is coming when we're trying to import export data through command prompt. While we were successfully able to import data from Excel sheet in graphical interface, but when it comes to command prompt, there are some issues. So let's go ahead. So to use the SQL Server import and export wizard to export data from a database hosted on a SQL Server engine instance, these are the steps, but we're going to go for those commands. There are just you know, export and import from graphical interface, and just this is the last time also we discussed that. There it is, the using BCP to import and export data. That's where I wanted to come. The BCP utility is a command line utility that enables you to bulk export data from a database to a file, or bulk import data from a file into tables in a database. So you can use BCP with XML format as well, only if you have installed the SQL Server native client. So let's get to the example. Also, if we want to support, there's a huge amount of data we're exporting to Notepad quickly, and you know, that data is scattered across Notepad when you actually export that. So that's going to be of no good. So there are some switches we need to know as well. You can ensure that data in a file created by using the BCP is in a specific order by using the query out option and the order by clause. For example, to export a list of products and product numbers ordered alphabetically by product name. This is the example that's mentioned for AdventureWorks database, and what I have is much easier, and well, the example that works. The previous one was the book one, and they require some previous settings as well, which are not available or which takes more time. But we need to understand what is BCP, how to bulk import and export data. So I'm just going to be using, let's use our database called food. So I'm just going to put that on that web page, notepad.pw, and let's try to do that. So, oh, seriously. Accept my password. Are we all using? Oh, you're not using Wi-Fi, right? Again. So I'll just, yeah. I just put the password and connect. Oh, good. Okay. Oh. So, oh well, I'll just connect to my, because I just changed the password last night, so I'm just gonna connect to my mobile Wi-Fi and connect my computer to that. But this is the command. So we're using a use database, but you won't be able to see the create table GB class, right? So I'm just quickly connecting my laptop to my cell phone data or internet hotspot. Yeah, there it is. So enabled. So I'm not connecting to GBC again, and well, it was opposite after changing the password. So I just started my cell phone data. I'm just connecting now. Once more. Seriously, if it takes that much time. Okay, forget it. Okay, got it. So I'm just uploading these lines there. Yikes. So we were on, I think, notepad.pw/gb. So if I go to GB now, there it is, and going to the top, putting everything down. So notepad.pw/gb, and just copy pasting this. Okay, it's there. The rest of the lines as well, I'm just sharing there. So, and then I'm going to explain what's going on, although it should be just import export we are doing, but it's going to be a quick lots of changes there actually we're going to be doing. So so I've just put it there. I'm putting it on magnifying glass so you can see clearly. So we're on notepad.pw/gb here, and then these are the lines that I put there. So we can just try those just to import and export data. Remember that BCP command runs. Okay, command prompt, exactly. So we are not supposed to run this inside the Management Studio. So I'm just going to go back now, and so let's create a new table. Let's check if so this is the second one actually. Let me just quickly go back. Yeah, this one. So we're using the food database, and we're creating a table called create table GB class ID int. So the ID, there will be a row of ID and a name, and we're putting these names there quickly, and then we're going to quickly use rest of the 3 or 4 commands, types of ways to import data from this table. So we're creating a table inside the food database or whichever database you want, and then the table name is GB class, and insert and then inside the data would be the names and numbers. So these are the names and numbers. So let me just go there now and put it to the SQL Management Studio. This is the second server. Oh, seriously. Okay. Okay, there it is. Wow, magnifying glass is kind of. As you know, the explanation and the line and the script, the commands I've sent is pretty easy. If you're going ahead with that, if you're understanding this, go ahead. But I'm just gonna quickly get back to the view here. Logging into both SQL servers in case I mess up the first one, then at least we can just continue on the second one. Okay, so I'm just gonna try to load that Management Studio. And there it is. And I'll just pin it to the taskbar, so next time I just don't have to go inside and do that. Once it starts loading, I need to keep an eye on the size of the drive. I am running out of free space quickly, so I need to delete a lot of stuff. Okay, so it's loading and it's gonna load today. Oh, it did. Okay, connect. So we already have a database called food. If not, then just use any other database. And for that, we need to still change those lines here. I'm using use food. So if we are writing that in the new query, or right click the food database and then click new query. So I'm just going to do that all here. Okay, the database has databases have loaded. So I'm just going to open the new query for the food database. Oh, seriously, I don't have it. In this instance, I don't have it. So I'm just gonna create a database instead, because I don't have that database, and I don't want to mess up with the AdventureWorks for now. So I'm just gonna create quickly a database and then create table, and then with the SQL query statements. So right clicking now, and it's still on right click. Wow, terrible. This SSD is really today super slow drive. Okay, so database is there. Since I did not find in this instance which I loaded, it's food database is not there. I'm just going to create one by the name of food or lunch, or whatever's your favorite. So I've created the database. Right click and then go to query here. So now I can just quickly run the queries which I uploaded to notepad.pw/gb. So this is the table I want to create inside the food database. So I'm copy pasting it here. Create a table GB class by the name. So if I go to food database now and expand the tables folder, there's no table there, and hopefully this works. Well, it better. Okay, table is created. If I right click the food database, or I should have right clicked the tables, there it is, the dbo.class database. And so I'm just gonna quickly add those that data into the tables. So already, how do we check that there's already data in the table, or if there's no data in the table? So select start. Oh, okay. I thought there was a question. Those yawns are always interesting. Yes, you have a question? No, sir. I was just okay. So start from GB class. And if you run this, it should show, yeah, there's ID, there's name, but I mean there is nothing there, and that's what I wanted to just check. Is there anything there? Oh wow, it's not that clear. So let me just magnify that now. Okay, so create table GB class ID. So first we create the table, and varchar, it's just gonna give us 20 character space, and then select dot star from GB class means just that the table we created, is there anything inside? Like it's just checking the current status. There's nothing, so I'm just gonna put that next line here, which will insert data, and when we copy from here to the table, there are things with it that we need to fix. Okay, oops, 2 times I put that, Control Z. So these are the lines, and you can see that the commas are always, but this is one time only we're putting the data here, so I'm just highlighting and changing it to the inverted comma that we need, and during copy it just does that. So once it is done, we're just going to try BCP and then another command and then another one on this data. Seriously, there should have been quicker way to do that. If I just go for search and then or replace command, that should do it faster. It's not that much anyway. Oops. And the last one. Okay, so does it work? So select this, execute. Yep. So it 6 rows affected. Yes, this means it worked. So if I again execute select star from GB class, what's inside this table now? Now we have some data here, and let's just go ahead and get the export to work. So the BCP, so this file, this command BCP is going to go to the food database, and then to the table GB class, and then out just means export and in just means import. So and then C colon backslash is there's the file that's going to create. -T just means that it's going to use the currently logged in credentials to execute this command, and -C just means that you know, put it in proper format once it reaches the notepad. So we're going to use that. So it's going to be in the proper table format. It's going to have a terminator at the end, terminator 3. No, okay, 1 was better. Anyway, so -C. So this is just going to keep the formatting alive even in the .txt file. Otherwise, if you don't use -C, it's going to be a scattered data, which is of no use. So I'm just going to copy this and go there, put that there, and paste. There you go. So am I doing correct? So far so good, right? No. BCP commands run in command prompt. So just control X out of that. We need to open the command prompt here. The next command we will be using inside the Management Studio. So I'm just opening the command prompt here and paste and enter. So it's food.dbo.gb class out. Just export the data, enter. There is bcp.food native client unable to open BCP host. Everyone getting this? Oh, anyone tried that? So anyone tried that? Oh, you're.
Are you in the right?
Sorry? Right table? Right database? So this should be, so there's a SQL Server native client 11 unable to open BCP host data file. So if I just go and check on another, so do I have food database here? Yes, that's the food database. And then there's that GB class .txt. So insert data and then export that. Yeah, dbo.gb class, right? So dbo food.dbo.gb class out SQL. So did anyone try? Okay. Different directory. Should okay. Well, if it now it's so SQL Server native client unable to open BCP host data file. So this is supposed to let me just check quickly on the second server, SQL Server as well, and that's why I need different testers with me. Okay. Oh, seriously? Now I need to involve the big wigs, which means my test environment where everything's supposed to work and it works, and then it gives me that okay GB class create table DB class. So if I just, although it's not supposed to be the issue of admin, oh, there is that SQL agent that's red. Oh, it's not started. Yes. Should be SQL agent is working for everyone? Yes, and if I refresh now, so I'm just going to get my other set of SQL Server machines up as well, because I need to just show you it works fine. And you know that error is just we need to enable some of the other settings. SQL Server agent is now started, so but does it have a direct effect on that? So let me just quickly find that out. Native error SQL stat. So SQL Server native client unable to open BCP host data file, and the error is S1000. That was a simple command that's supposed to. So let me just show you the other machines as well, where I have enabled all the other services, and if they open today, okay, one more command, let me just check that. You know what, at this time, at these times, I'll just quick little run on that error because it's not supposed to come, so I'm just gonna Google it. Yeah. From the admin privileges, which I was starting. Okay, thanks for confirming that. The run as administrator. Really? Yes. Thank you. Okay, let's run that there. So confirm. Hey, 10 bits for you, man. 10 bits if you like that. Yeah, 10 bits for you. Yeah. Thank you. So okay, good. That's nice troubleshooting and recorded as well. Okay, so this means next commands. Actually, BCP is the only command we're going to be running here on command prompt rest in the management studio. So I did start that before as well, and somehow it did not start. So yeah, now it's going to slow down. The other machines are going to slow down my. So thank you, machines. I was just gonna see this running there because it ran there perfectly. Anyway, thank you for this confirming this. Let's go ahead and this is export. So where's the file? Let's just quickly check that and go ahead now. And the file is this. If you go to the Windows Explorer and I clicked it today, okay, double click C drive, the file should be there and in a proper format, like not scattered. Okay, this is the file, GB class. Double click that. And if we double click, it opens nearly approximately in T minus 10, 9, 8. Alright, and it opened. It decided to open. Okay, yeah, in a text format, if you don't use -C, then it's gonna be not in this format. Anyway, so let's just go ahead. We confirm that it is there. So importing should be easy, but fingers crossed always. There could be one small step or two small steps or any other small step that we may be missing. Let's check if the GB class text file was created. Yes, we just checked that. Let's create a new table, GB section, and then so I'm just gonna I just put that also there on the notepad.pw, so /GB. So I'm just creating a new table now, and I'm going to import, or I'm going to try to import this data from that file that was exported from GB class to GB section. So right click from here and let's try to run that. So first we're creating a new table in the same database, right? So paste, and now the table name is GB section. Execute that, and it's created. Let's just confirm it is. So right click the food database, refresh, and there's the GB section table. So we're going to just import that to GB section, and if we want to see that is there something inside the GB section right now, is there any data? So GB section and F5, select an F5. Well, still 2 rows there and nothing, no data inside. So we're just gonna use the command now to import BCP to import the data. So the import command is also there. Just try to run that. So BCP food, instead of GB class, you have to change it to GB section. Well, it's already there. And instead of out in the previous command, we're just using in for import. And the rest is the same, supposed to be the same. So right click, copy, and again, of course, the administrator privileged one. Oh, well, anyway, it did not copy there, so I'm just gonna up arrow and bring the previous command there, which I already copied there as well on Notepad. So this is the previous one, so I'm just going to change it to GB section instead of class. So I'm just going to the second table and also putting it as in to import instead of out. And 6 rows copied. Okay, cool. So this means that the data is imported from BCP to the second table. So I'm just gonna minimize there and check that again. So select star from GB section, and if I press F5 for execute, now it should have all the data. Yeah. So GB section has the same data as if we select that from GB class and execute. The same data was there. Yes, and that's what we exported from here and imported to the other table. Okay, so this was GB or bulk copy. Sorry, the BCP actually, and bulk copy. So I'm just going to go ahead as you have the scripts already there up on the notepad.pw, so it should be very easy to test. So let's just go ahead now. There are other features as well. So importing data by using bulk insert. Use the bulk insert statement to load data into a table from a file. Unlike the BCP utility, which you run from the operating system, the bulk insert statement is run from within the database engine, right? So when the bulk insert statement specify the when using the bulk insert, specify the table into which you want to insert the data and the location of the file. As is the case with the BCP utility, you must ensure that the table into which you are importing data already exists. Of course, it has to be there. We just need to import data with a second utility, or it's not utility, command. So lab steps for this. I'm creating another table called GB department, so let me just upload these steps here just to use that bulk insert now. So just uploading that there. Okay, it's there now. So we're gonna just use that GB class .txt, the file where we exported the data. We're gonna use the same file to import it to a third table, which we're gonna create now. So I'm just taking this. So create table for GB DEPT or department. I'm just creating this table there. So copy paste again into the query area. So now we have a new table we're creating. So I'm just gonna execute that and confirm if it is created. Refresh tables. And GBDEPT is created, so it's an empty table, and we need to just import data using the bulk insert and from the management studio from within that. So bulk insert command, to use the bulk insert statement to import the data from the GB class.txt file that was exported in the earlier example. Execute the statement. So bulk insert, food is database, schema is the DBO, GB DEPT is the table. From, all we're trying to do is from, and row terminator here is this, although we can define it separately. So I'm just going to select that and check. Oh, there's a go as well, so let's just select both. Copy, going inside, okay, doesn't show any errors. And also is there any data inside the GB class, not glass, class, GB department actually, not the GB class. So I'm just going to make sure that there's no data, it's an empty table, right? So GB, select star from GBDPT, and it should just show an empty table. So select that, execute. Yes, it's an empty table. So now we can just try to put through bulk insert data from GB class.txt to the new table. So execute that. 6 rows affected. Okay, so this means that it successfully it has been imported through bulk insert as well. It's just a little different, and from within the management studio you can do that instead of going to the command prompt. So if we go select star from GBDEPT, select that and run it. So yes, the data has been imported from within the Management Studio to this table. Okay, so that was easy. I mean, copy paste and everything, right? Ready-made stuff. Well, it's not that easy when they put it in the book. They tend to use a lot of switches, which tend to give a lot of issues as well. Anyway, so I'm just going ahead to next one. These commands are still there if you want to check, and you're doing that. So then there is that importing data by using open row set bulk. So open row set enables you to connect to an old DB or object linking and embedding to database. So old DB data source to retrieve data. We did try to retrieve data successfully from graphical interface through graphical interface from Excel file. So that was a couple of classes back. But this is the command line way of doing things, but it has its complications actually. So it did not run well with many of the. So I'm just gonna try to run it, and so create table called GB College, and then try to. There is that Excel sheet. That I think you should not be following this one, because it even on the TechNet there were lots of issues with those guys who were leaving the comments there for this command set. So I'm just going to show you only that if we are trying to do that, what kind of errors are coming there. So open row set bulk here, if I go down, so I would suggest you could just see that, but don't try that. Don't try that at home. No, you can try that at home. So let's just copy that. I'm just going to copy and show you some of the errors that's coming here, but that's coming everywhere actually. In every you go search Google, and really it's pain. So I can just still put it for me as well, because I need internet here. It's not pasting now, seriously. Control N. Oh, seriously. So at certain point it just stops pasting, so then I can just go to internet and grab it myself from the GB, from that notepad .pw. So I'm just sending this command to through GB. So you can see that, but it's gonna. I want to show you some errors, and I want to tell you why it's coming. But if in production environment you get this command, you need to work with this command. Of course, there will be some issues that you will be facing as well if you're trying that. So I'm just trying to get internet here. I'm just going to enable that. Okay, so I disabled my internet one, so I'm just enabling the internet card. Okay, there it is. Refresh. So I'm putting this on top, just quickly trying to show you. So it creates a table first. Then we need to have an Excel file, Excel sheet. So gbclass.xlsx. So I'm just gonna send that to you, so you would be able to resume. As I was saying, that just see that. So there's a file here already, Excel file main copy, and I'm just putting it to SQL 2 and pasting it here, and access denied. So go to downloads, paste it there, and there it is. So, and then from here, if I try to paste that again here, it's going to take it anyway. Yep. Okay. So gb class.xls. Oh, this is just the old one, XLS, not XLSX. So I'm just gonna quickly execute this command and show you where the problem is. So I'm quickly creating a table called gb college. Execute. So it's creating a table. This table can get a huge amount of characters, right? So I'm just gonna refresh that. DB college. So now the purpose of open row set is to import data through command from Excel file or any other external application. In our particular example, it's the Excel file, right? So I put that code there as well on Notepad, but let me just quickly execute that and show you that where it shows what problem and why. So insert into dbo.gbdep department. So actually it's inserted. Okay, one thing I just get straight, that the table which I am working on is GB college, but it's insert into GB department I'm doing there. So we're gonna just change it to GB college, or well, I need to just put that code there. Let's just fix that code and try to run it. So there it is, and I'm just gonna fix first the inverted commas. And inverted commas here. So that's it's showing there Microsoft.jet.olddb.4.0. So this is just the driver that's through which that a SQL server tries to access external application, and we're just putting it there. Sheet 1 just shows the first worksheet of the Excel file where the data is. So we've just created a table called GB college, but and data in that sheet is actually more. So we're just going to change this to GB college instead of GB department college. And when we try to execute it, so SQL Server blocked access to statement because of ad hoc distributed. So this is the first error that comes, at ad hoc distributed queries, because this component is turned off. So we need to turn on this ad hoc distributed queries. When you turn it on, it helps you import and export data from outside applications, and there's a command for that as well that turns it on. So I'm just gonna put that up. It's just that what's required there, and in any production environment, when you get this, you would know that where the problem is or what needs to be done. So I'm just going to tell SQL Server that please let us connect to the outside application. So there's a command for that actually. So this is this. So I'm just going to, for your record, I'm just going to put that there as well. You can try that at home, but here I'm just quickly explaining that what's going on. So if that error ever comes, so just have this in your if you're having some document with all the scripts. I just put it on the notepad. So first we have to open that ad hoc distributed queries. So I'm just going to go and copy paste this to the Management Studio, what I'm doing is I'm just asking the SQL Server that, hey, I want to import something through Open Rows Set, and I want to import something from Excel sheet, and please let me access that Excel sheet, not Microsoft Access, the application, access, the English word. So if you run this command, it is supposed to let you access that Excel file. In our case, we have what I imported was XLS only, so I'm just going to remove that X, which means that it's the Office 2003 up to Office 2007. Any of the file, they have this extension. After Office 2007, there is XLSX added, right? So I'm just going to run that command now, and okay, refresh. There it is. So all three of these, it's just going to open access from within SQL Server to outside applications, right? So in order to do that, I'm just gonna create some more space here and paste those commands. So first, I'm just running show advanced options. Oh, it's showing that there's some problem here, but it's gonna still work. So selecting that and pressing F5, yep, it does work. It says that configuration options, show advanced options changed from 0 to 1. This means it's going to let us configure the outside access to any external application. So I'm just correcting these commas here and executing that as well. Press F5. Now at least this error should not be coming, and we need to still reconfigure. So F5. If we run these three statements in sequence, so at least when we again try to retrieve data from an Excel sheet number 1 into the table called GB College inside SQL Server 2012, at least this error should not be coming. So I'm just going to execute that again, that insert into dbo dot GB College. So the GB College data is GB College table. Please insert whatever data is in the Excel sheet worksheet number 1 called sheet 1 $. So execute that. Now it's saying that cannot create an instance of OldDB provider Microsoft jet.olddb.4.0 for linked server. So this only comes when you're using some Excel version that is older. I mean, we could be using this Excel. There is a jet OldDB 4. This could be actually 8, or this could be 12. So let me show you. When you put Excel version 8 or Excel version 10, this is referring to some MS Office version actually, right? So MS Office 2010, if you open Excel version is 12, or MS Office 2007, when you open the Excel version is some other. So if I even go to to Google and try to just run the Excel version here, so Microsoft Excel version 12, suppose I type that. So it says that version 12 is actually Office 2007. It's related to Office 2007. So it's just going to start giving you a variety of errors there, which of course if we do give a lot more time, we can just pin it down to which version of Excel. So it's this error after we have enabled access from SQL Server to access through to Excel sheet, Microsoft Excel from 2012, SQL 2012. It's going to give this error. Why? Excel versions have also issues. So let me just change one of the version. The jet old DB This just means that this is the driver that's going to let us access the Microsoft Excel worksheet. I'm just gonna go back to the version 4 here. I'm just showing you why it's not gonna, it's gonna take a little long than before. And Excel version 4. So I'm just saying that Mr. SQL Server, I have an older Microsoft Excel file called gbclass.xls, which is the older version, right? So please use this older driver, which just connects us to the Excel sheet and try to import that data for us. And it's just saying that cannot create an instance of OLDB. There are different types of errors. There's a message 7302. There's one page that actually gives us detail of all the message types and then gives us the solution for that as well. But this is one command that from the book I was just getting those commands for you. The book also isn't trying with or giving any example for this command. I still went ahead and tried to do it at least, and I'm just trying to show you that if you are trying to do that yourself, you will be getting a variety of errors, and I'm going to send you that URL where all types of possible errors that's going to come, what's the solution for that. But the thing is that we were already successful in importing data from Excel file from graphical interface, if you remember, and that was in the test as well, right? Oops. So from command prompt, we just need to work out with all the errors, and there are so many that the book even didn't try that, the exam book. But now we get the logic at least that if you are trying, this is these are the factors that need to be considered, and explain those as well. But if in production environment you get to see this, just import data from open row set, so just be careful or do your homework. Or just tell the boss, hey, can I just import from graphical interface? I can do that easily. Anyway, so let's just go ahead. I just tried to explain you that this is something that even some experts are crying on the internet. So using format files. So I'm just going to the next topic now. Format files map data file fields to the columns of a table. You use a format file with BCP, bulk insert, or open row set when importing data from a file that uses fixed width or character terminated fields. It's just saying that so previous versions of SQL Server support non-XML formats. Now Microsoft says that just use XML formats. It's easier to import and export data through XML format, right? So let's try that. What's going on here is that we're going to export data into XML file now, and from already we have already the database called AdventureWorks. It has huge amount of tables and huge amount of data as well in many of the tables. So we're going to be exporting this there. So I'm just going to put this line there, this command here, and of course it's going to work in command prompt. So this is the second one. Actually this is still the BCP, and I did tell you that BCP is the only one we're using in the command prompt. So this is another example of a BCP, but this time we're using it with another command. We are trying to use it with different file formats. Okay, this is the command. I put it there, put on the notepad.pw/gb. So please try this, and it should export all the data from. Okay, let me explain that here. So AdventureWorks 2012 is the database we all have. There's a table called human resources.employee, and we're going to export all the data from that database, from that table, to employee-c.xml. and it should be, well, the file is exported to C/Windows /System32. So I'm just going to do that now. Let's try it and check if it really works, because trying is believing. Okay, so let's just go ahead. So this is the next command that we're gonna give. I'm clicking and okay, so right click, copy, and it should export the data. So where's that adventure? So there's the AdventureWorks, and there are all the tables of AdventureWorks. And if you go to the human resources.employee table, so this is the table, human resources.employee. And if we go to select star from human resources.employee human, I'm just trying to check that employee, is it gonna work? Because I'm inside the food database, not in AdventureWorks. Human resources, my spellings are okay. Object name, human resource, human resources dot employee. So I should be putting here use AdventureWorks. AdventureWorks. What's the name of the database? AdventureWorks 2012. And then execute this just to check how much data is there inside, right? So first command completed successfully. I should put it on magnifying glass. So use AdventureWorks, I'm just putting that hey, go inside the AdventureWorks, because from there, and then selecting that and pressing F5. Now it shows a lot of data here. If we keep going down, oh, that's a huge amount of data actually. 290 national ID number, login ID, organization level, and there's so many columns here. Okay, good. So let's just export that data here. So we just saw it inside the that database. We saw that. So I'm just gonna try to copy paste that here. Okay, AdventureWorks. So enter. It's always fingers crossed. Shouldn't be. Okay, I think it worked. And where we executed that, it's that employee-c.xml file should be there. So how do we open that? So where's that employee.dir? Employee star. There it is. So if I go dir employee star, it just searches for employee-c .xml file, which we can now execute, or at least check for the data. But it already is 5 megabytes, so kilobytes. So this is there. So if I just try to put that on, can Notepad open XML? Okay. Employee-c dot, and yes. So all the data is here, but with all the formatting, wherever the terminator is there, maximum length. So the details of the table as well. But is it all the data? Nope. That's not all. Okay, so I'm just going to try and go from Windows System32. and employee. There it is. Oh, it is XML file, and I should open it with the Internet Explorer, and it's supposed to open XML. employee-c.xml. It did not. Okay, well, the file is there. It's just that we cannot open that. It's supposed to be opening easily with, and it's 6 KB there. That's also not good. That's not the file. Anyway, so I'm just going to go down and run that command again and change the file name, and this is the file name. -E instead of C, whatever. Enter. And since I'm in that path right now, so there's the employee-e file, and it's also 6 KB, and it's also not opening. Well, there's some problem with that then. Okay, you know, every step troubleshooting, or just shooting, or troubleshooting, shooting the trouble. Okay, so well, the command does execute, and it can open with or any XML editor. We can just open, although Internet Explorer just opens it fine. It's just not showing all the data correctly. -t -x. So it was not enough just to export it. If it's not exported correctly, that's also, so this needs to be worked out. So I'm just going to send you, or at least we should Google it later, why it's not opening, and because it has a lot of huge amount of data, and we saw it in the Management Studio. We're gonna be, or I'll be at least Googling it at least to check why the XML is not opening. Okay, next, so at least we know the command and the format. How can we use that? Which .txt we can export, as well as .xml. Also, then there is the second one, and the next one is select into. The into clause when used with the select statement enables you to create a new table by using the results of a selected statement. So assuming that you have the appropriate permissions, you can use the select statement with the into clause to create a new table on another database. So what's it saying in simple English is that we can create a copy of a table inside another database within the same instance. Okay, again, its select into will help us create a copy of a table in another database. That's all. Okay, let's just test that now. That's my most interesting one, actually. You can make a copy of any table and put it in any other database within the same instance. So I'm just gonna put that code up there on the net as well, so any one of us can try that and let me know. Oh, SQL logins is there. So there it is. Okay, so what we're trying to do is, we already have a table called GB class. We're going to make a copy of the GB class table, but that copy will be created in another database instead of the same database. It should be created in another database if this code works correctly. As the picture shows, that okay, we need to make sure that we have two databases, and according to that, we can change the names here. So I'm just going to put that full example and code to the notepad. So I'm just putting it there now. You can just retrieve there from there. Okay, it's there. So grab it, and what we're doing is here is at least we need two databases, right? So create a copy of the GB class table of the food database. So I already have food database, and inside there's a table called GB class. I need to create a copy of GB class table, right? So we need to have a second database. We can have a database called lunch. So I'm just gonna go there and create that lunch database, and then this would just work fine. Or if you have any other database, just change the name of that, right? So minimize that and go for that notepad and copy this one. So I'm just gonna copy the whole thing and into the management studio. Let's see if it creates a copy on a second database. So everything there. So I'm just gonna put it in comments, put it as comment, issue the query, and close those comments. So */ just comments the, and you know what, should be tools, options, word warp, text editor. Oh, there's an XML. Okay, there's word warp. Actually, we're using plain text, so in plain text I just wanted to change this, and it is not working. Okay, so well, this is the command that we need to run. This is a statement we need to run. So select *into. So we're going for the target database lunch .dbo, and we're saying that please create a copy called GB class copy from food.dbo, which is the source database where the table called GB class is created. We're saying that just create a copy of that GB class by the name of GB class copy inside the database called lunch from this. So I don't have the lunch database, but I have AdventureWorks database. Let's just mess that up as well. So AdventureWorks 2012, that's the only name I need to put here instead of lunch, because I don't have. I can create one, but why don't we just use what we have? AdventureWorks 2012. This is the name of the database, which will be our target database, where we're going to create a copy of the table. These are very interesting, labs. I'm just gonna change them in the final exam. So I'm just gonna make lots of changes in these, statements. So I hope it's more trickier for you in the exam. So let's just go for this. If it creates that database or not. So select *into AdventureWorks. What I'm expecting is that inside the AdventureWorks there should be another table called GB class copy, and this table has been copied from the food database, and the table is GB class. So let me just confirm if food database and GB class is there. Okay, so does it go there? So selecting that. And F5, 6 rows affected. So is there a database created inside AdventureWorks called GB class copy, and is it an exact copy of the GB class, or is it just an empty database? So refresh the AdventureWorks and expand the table again, and it should be GB. So well, doesn't look like anything got created.
At the top, with B written, starts with B.
D?
Yeah, right before human resource.
Oh, it's a DBO. Exactly. So, is it exactly the same data inside there? So how do we do that? Just instead of that, DBO dot GB class copy. So select star from DBO GB class copy, and it should show us the data inside that that's the, yeah, exactly, this is the copy of that, so it's the correct one. So yes, the data is, so the table can be created and copied to another database, but it cannot be done to the second server. It can be only done within the instance, right? So that was easy, right? And thanks for confirming. Okay, so just gonna go ahead and let's talk about other stuff. So SQL logins. Now this is all about security of your SQL Server databases, and what kind of, so how many users or what user you want to give access to SQL Server, and what level of permissions you want to give to that. So it all depends on all that. So this is normally all about the security of the SQL Server. So SQL logins are the credentials that authenticate connections to an instance. When we try to connect from Management Studio, we have to give credentials, right? So we can try to, look deeper into what credentials we can give, what level of permissions we can give to what kind of users and where, and of course how. Except in the case of an instance configured to support contained databases, a database user must map to an existing SQL Server login. We're going to be trying to just create that user and give it a lot of separate different permissions. So you can differentiate SQL Server logins based on the type of authentication method used. So we're going to try to see what authentication methods are there. Let's check that out. So SQL Server 2012 supports the following login types: Windows authenticated login, which we are using now, right? It just uses the locally logged in domain user. SQL Server authenticated login, that is, so anyone knows what's the most privileged, what's the name of the account that is the most privileged in SQL Server? Anyone knows the name of the account that is, so anyone knows what's the name of the account that is most privileged in Linux? Root. In Cisco routers, when you log in, the most privileged account is? Executive is the area, yeah, where you load. So what is the most privileged in SQL Server? Sir? SA. So SA is the most, just like domain administrator or the administrator is the most privileged if it's domain wide, or so SA is the account that is the most privileged in SQL Server. But we're going to know why and what are the permissions given to that, and what are the other permissions we can play with. Then there's that certificate. We can just map a user account with a certificate, and certificate does two things. Those are, we did talk about that before, I guess. Do you know what does certificate do? Anyone knows that? When you put a certificate, you're right. Yeah. Oh, okay. So certificate does what? It encrypts data, and authenticates. Two things. So whenever we see HTTPS on websites, it's the certificate in the background working and authenticating and encrypting the data, or authenticate or encrypt as well. Any one you can use or both you can use. So we can actually map a certificate to a user, and it would be a second line of authentication that the user has to. If the user has a certificate which is a very small file called, has a size of 47 KB or 50 KB file. If that file is there, the user can log in. If the file is not there, the user cannot log in. Asymmetric key is also public key and private key. Anyone has any idea about public key and private key? That's going too far actually. Like, what? Public key and private key? So there is that PKI infrastructure. So public key and private key just means that when you send an email, you encrypt that email, and that email cannot. If a hacker grabs that email, the hacker won't understand what are the wordings of that email, right? So when you send an email, you encrypt it, and somebody, the user who's receiving that email will have to decrypt to understand what's written, of course. So the receiver must have the private key and the sender must have the public key to decrypt and encrypt. This is a very interesting concept, but in SQL Server, it's they're also using this. This also uses certificate, but the thing is that when you apply asymmetric key concept, there's that private key and public key. The public key is always available for every user if the certificates have been issued, and anyone can use that public key to send a data to any other user, and the user has the private key to open that data or decrypt that data, right? So a security principal must have the alter any login permission to be able to create SQL logins, right? So a security principal must have the alter any login. So we're going to use that command now, but let's just go ahead a little. Windows authenticated SQL Server logins. So first type is Windows authenticated SQL Server logins. These are Windows authenticated SQL logins are instance logins in which the operating system handles authentication. In our case, of course, we're using this one. For any instance which we are loading or creating, we are using Windows authenticated SQL Server logins. So you can map a Windows authenticated SQL Server login to a local user account as well, a local security group as well, a domain user account, or a domain security group. Now, what am I talking about? So let's go inside and check where to go and see the settings or configurations for giving the permissions. So if we go on instance level, this is the instance level, so there is that security folder or container you can see here, and inside there are logins, there are server roles, there are credentials, cryptographic providers, audits, and server audit specifications. There's that security container for the instance we have loaded, and if we go down the databases, if we further go inside any database, so if I go to AdventureWorks, there's that security container for the database as well. So you can put security or modify security on database level, because if you go inside any database, the last container is the security container, where you can just handle security, or the logins, or deny access to people, or modify give more permissions to do more, to be able to use more features, and to give less permissions for the users to be able to use less features. So there's a database level security, and then there is instance level security here, right? So we're just going for instance level, and there is that login. When we expand that login area, there are all those service accounts are present there, and there is that SA also available, and then SQL domain / /SQL admin is our domain admin account actually, which is also available. And during the installation, it asked for which Windows account you want to give access to access all the features or open the SQL server. So does it have all the permissions? Can it do everything? For now, yes, we know that it can. So let's start this after, although for some of us it's a continuous break since the start of the class, but anyway, it's a break now. For some of us it's so just have 10-minute or 15-minute break, then we come back because this is a long topic, and we can just so I'm just gonna pause the video here, and if there are any questions or okay, we're back, and we're talking about Windows Authentication SQL Server logins. So we did talk about already that there are the following types: Windows Authenticated Login, SQL Server Authenticated Login, certificates, and asymmetric key with encrypt private key and public key, the PKI system. We can just type it as well as PKI system, which is public key infrastructure, where there's a public key and private key, and the whole data is encrypted. So a security principle must have alter any login. So let's just go ahead and try these. Windows Authenticated SQL Server logins are instance logins in which the operating system handles authentication. You can map a Windows Authenticated SQL Server login to a local user account, a local security group, a domain user account, or a domain security. In our case, we are using a domain user account to log into our instance, which we configured during the installation of SQL Server. So how to create a Windows Authenticated SQL Server login by using SQL Server Management Studio. So these are the steps to, if we want to go for graphical interface. To create Windows Authenticated SQL Server login, use the create login transact command. For example, to create a SQL Server login by using the local account local1 on the server SQL A. So before that, let's just give access either to a group or a local Windows account or an account that we created inside the Active Directory. How do we give access to those accounts inside the SQL Server, and what kind of access they can have? So if I go back to my SQL Server, and we're again inside this area, so let me just magnify that. So there's the logins area, and this is the instance-based login. Again, I mentioned that every database has a security container as well. Same, mostly the same type of containers or the features, but on database level. So this is the instance level security area. So when we go to logins, we expand that. There are many users already available. There's some service accounts that are already created during the installation, and then there is that account that we are using. So if we right click that login area here excuse me, and then go for new login, so this is the window that opens when we right click the logins area and the new login, and there are all those areas where we can just configure what's the the roles given to all the user accounts, what we can add, what extra user permissions any user can have when we go to securables, and what is the status for any given user or the user we are about to create now. So if you go to general here first, there's a login name, and if it's Windows authentication, this means it's expecting that we can just get a Windows account. If we have an account in Active Directory, then we can actually give that account here, and it might add that. So if you go to search, it is it looking at is it trying to search inside the Active Directory, or is it trying to search on the local server? Local server. So let's just try. So there is one account we're gonna just add into SQL from local server, and there's another account we're gonna just add from Active Directory. But if we want to add an account from local server, this means we need to have that in the local server. So suppose, okay, this is the local server, and I need to create an account here. So I'm gonna go on the server manager, which is here. This is SQL Server 2012. So when I click here and go on the top, there is tools, and it has excuse me. So it has computer management here. So on the server manager, in the tools and computer management, when I go, there is local users and groups. So we can create any amount of local users and groups here. Groups are built in already, but if we go to users and right click and create new user here. So where did I go again? Just quickly, server manager, then tools, then computer management. Inside then there is local users and groups. So I'm just going to create a new user here. So it's junior SQL developer. You can just give any name. Username is this, and Control C, tab, full name, description, password, the class password. Just putting any password here. So I'm just creating a local user account here and unchecking that, so it should not be changing the password at next logon. So junior SQL developer is the local account we created. So I'll just click create here. Also I'm just going to create a group. So I just created a user here, local user. So I'm just going to quickly create a group here as well, which is local group, which means that it's just created on this server. And SQL developers local group, just saying that, but anyway, it's gonna, and it has no members, but I'm just creating a group here, and when I click create here for the group and close, so the group should be there in S. Yep, there it is. So SQL developers local group with no members, one user, one group here, locally created. And if I go to my domain controller here, just to check the across the domain if there's authentication working fine, so I'm just gonna go to the domain controller and create one user and group here as well. So I'm just going to tools. Is this a domain controller? SQL DC. That's the domain controller. SQL DC, and then desktop, tools, server manager, and then tools. There's that Active Directory and computers here. So on domain controller, in server manager, on tools, Active Directory, users and computers. So I'm just creating quickly one user and group here as well. New user, so domain user 01. That's the name, and you could just put any name there in the new users. And so domain user 01 next, and of course the password. So we're going to check that locally when we add, and from domain when we add users. how can we add that, and can we give further permissions there, and what are the limitations for that. So click next, finish. So I just created one user here, which is domain user 01, and I'm just gonna quickly create new group. So right click the users and new group. So group here, this is a domain level, of course. So domain user was the username, so domain group 01. So I'm just empty. So one domain user 01 and domain group 01 created, and that's on, of course, the domain, and the local user there and the local group there created as well. So let's try to go back and try to add that, use that SQL login area to see if what we can add and from where we can add, and can we give further permissions to those users. So I'm on SQL Server MAM01, and it is already Management Studio is there. It's open. So I was in MAM02 all this time where I was working. So I go, either you can just you can go to any of the SQL servers here, again where we were. So if we are inside the Management Studio, there on the instance level, the logins area, right click and then new login here. Now we have some users to actually add. So Windows authentication, of course, either we can have local users or domain users. So if we go search, now it's showing that okay, you can add a local user. So there was that local user. Oh, what was the name we gave to the local user? Okay, so there you go, Junior SQL Developer. Okay, Junior and check name. Okay, well, Junior, or I can just line up all the, go to advanced and find now whatever names are there, just bring it up, and it should be giving, there it is, Junior SQL Developer. Press OK and press OK here. So Windows authentication here, and it's obviously showing the local authentication here. If we click mapped certificate instead of SQL Windows authentication, we will have to provide the certificate, server certificate, which should be showing here, or map to asymmetric key, which we can select this one. So it will use then the PKI or public key infrastructure, where public key and private key, or the message is encrypted when it is sent from the source to the target. But we're using just the Windows authentication here. So Junior SQL Developer, and if we go for, so which database are you giving access? So it's the master database, of course. By default it's getting that access, and whoever has the master database access can also access other databases as well. But default language, of course, we're just going to keep it default. Nothing else here than adding a user. So I'm just pressing OK here. And there's that Junior SQL Developer. But can we use groups as well, or can we add groups? So I'm just going to right click the logins here. Excuse me. And so we created a group here as well. Okay, what is the name of the group? So it's the SQL Developer local group. Already there are SQL Server 2005 SQL Browser group here created automatically. So again, SQL Developers local group. So I'm just adding the group here as well. Later we're going to be using that, but it's a local group. SQL dev. It should check name and give me. Oh, first of all, what is the object type? Is it searching for user or a group? So if I go to object type here, there's groups have to be selected here. Press OK. But still, I think I didn't get the name right, so I'm just going to line it up again. Advanced. Find now. And this time the group is also mentioned here, so it's able to search the group, right? So click here, S for SQL developer. There you go. So there's that group that was detected or selected from the local groups. So pressing OK, and there's nothing more here. So I'm just going to quickly add now another new login, but this time from the domain search, and we're just going to change the location here. So either we can add from locally created users or from the entire Active Directory, or if we have branches as well, we can just go to, suppose there's toronto.sqldomain.local or downtown.toronto.sqldomain.local. So you can just add users from across the forest or across the domain to add them here. So I'm just going to add that so there was a user called domain user 01, domain use. So I think it should check. Yeah, it detects that. Excuse me. So it detects that. And press OK. So one user from domain, one local user. Pressing OK here, and then going for logins again, new login. Now I'm just going to add the domain group. So domain G and object types. Add the groups as well. Going a little fast. Let me know if I'm going fast. You know what I'll do? I'll go faster. Yeah. So I think it's no longer funny. SQLdomain.local. So what I did was object types group and also location, this domain, and then check name. So now it detects that it's a domain group 01. Press OK. So one domain group, one domain user added. So all the users, you would see that they have that server role called public only, right? The server role. So server role is used to grant server-wide security privileges to a user. I'm going to see that what does the public role contain, and then there are sysadmin. Sysadmin is the king of the jungle actually. It has all the privileges. So we're going to be talking about that, but right now just showing that server roles, any user we are creating or any group we are creating, it's getting the public role. And then user mapping, that you want to map a certain user to certain database. If they are mapped to certain database, maybe they're not able to open the other databases. So we'll be checking that as well. Securables also here. We can search what objects do you wish to add here, and specify all objects of the types, and the SQL server. Actually, I'm just gonna come back later, but I'm just quickly checking one thing here. Logins. Press OK. Enter the object name to select. Just a quick one here before we domain user. Press OK. So we're coming back here for securables, but what permissions does us a group which I just added, what permission it has? It can alter on the SQL server, on the instance, it can do alterations, all kinds of modifications, control it if we want to give that grant, with grant, or deny, or if impersonate or view definition. We're going to be checking all those as well, but I was just in securables just to check and add if it's working fine with the domain. Right now I do not provide any permission here, so it's okay. What I need to show that public permissions are showing there, and there's a command that's going to tell us that which of these roles contain what kind of permissions, which is the least permission, which role is giving the least permissions and which role is giving the highest permission. So I'm just pressing OK here. We added 2 local users and 2 domain, 1 local user and 1 local group, and 1 domain user and 1 domain group. So once this is added, let's just go ahead and talk. So this is how we can add in the SQL environment any of the domain or local groups from the Windows environment, but then there's that local SQL Server groups as well, groups and users. But let's just go ahead a little to create Windows authenticated SQL Server login, use the create login transact. So what we did was from the command prompt, from the graphical interface, and what we can also do this on with the command as well. So for example, to create a SQL Server login by using the local account local1 on the server SQL A, use the transact SQL command. So what we did there, we can do here as well. So I'm just gonna put that there, and we need to make some changes here. In fact, let me just make those changes for you. The server here is SQL-mem01, and the account here is, so I'm just gonna delete from there, or if we can just add from here the account. That account was SQL Junior SQL Developer. Junior SQL Developer. So this account can be added through this script or command, SQL statement as well. So I'm just putting that up there on the notepad.pw. So this, we already added that user from the local server, but we can add it from the create login SQL statement as well, but just try to use that there. So if you're there on notepad.pw/gb, just copy that there from there, and let's just check it out. This account already is there, Junior SQL Developer. If I right click that here, because I added it from graphical interface, if I right click and delete that, and press OK, deleting server logins does not delete the database users associated with the logins. To complete the process, delete the users in each database. We haven't mapped any, we're going to be talking about the database users later in the topics, but right now I deleted that local user account, and I can add it through the SQL statements. So if I go to the browser, that should be there. Press F5. Oh, seriously. My cell phone hotspot was off. Okay, it's on now. Oh, you guys did not receive that, right? Okay. Yikes. So it was not there. Are you able to see that now? Or not? Okay. I'll just paste that again there. Okay. So you should be able to see it now there. So we can just cross-check the results. Okay, it's there. So I'm just gonna grab from their create login, copy. So it's SQL-mem01 because it's SQL-mem02 on which I'm trying. You could just try it on whichever server. Just make sure that it's the correct server that I wrote there, or maybe you have a different server name there. So from Windows is showing I'm just gonna put it on magnifying glass now. So there's that inverted commas we need to actually change. Okay, and junior SQL developer, I think that's a kid. And Windows NT user group not found, create the name again. Oh, seriously? Well, maybe it's not this spelling. Junior SQL developer, somehow they're not getting that name correct. So I'm just getting the spellings correct here for well, spellings were correct, but anyway. So SQL mem. Oh, sorry, mine is 2. Seriously, should have changed that. Okay, good. Created. So if we have the correct username and correct server name, we're good. And it will show to the logins when we refresh. And there it is. So from the create login, we can create local users. So can we just directly change this one and put domain here? SQL domain and domain user 01. So instead of so I already have domain user 01 SQL domain, so I'm just gonna quickly delete that from, because I added from the graphical interface just to check that statement, just to check that command does this same command take from the domain as well. So I just changed the credentials here, SQL domain /domain user 01 F5, and yes, it does take that. So all we need to do was to change the server name to domain name and the user account on the domain. So right click and refresh. The same command works for domain as well, and there it is. Right? So it's a very simple command, but you can just add lots of users here. You can just create a script and or just add the groups. So this is just adding, and what about the rest of the stuff? So this command just works for adding any Windows users, because it says from Windows. But how about if we want to create users from within SQL Server as well, and they have no Windows authentication, they are just inbuilt SQL Server accounts? We will be going to that as well. So I'm just going for the next slide, which is to create a SQL Server login using the local security group. Yes, all we need to do is, if you want to add the group as well, if it's local, just put the local name, server name, and the group name. If it's a user, just the username. So the command is the same for adding a group as well as a user, right? And then command is the same for adding from domain as well, which we just checked now. So, and if it's a domain group, of course, keep the domain name there and just put the domain group name here. Okay, so if we go ahead to create a SQL Server login using the domain security group, group 2 from the domain contoso, use the transact SQL statement, create login. Yes. Okay, that's to add a domain group. We just did that, or we talked about it, and we know that it's gonna work anyway. Okay, SQL Server authenticated logins. SQL Server authenticated logins are authenticated by database engine instance rather than through the host operating system or domain controller. So if we are to create a local SQL login, SQL Server username, that will be authenticated by database engine instance, not by host operating system or a domain controller as we are using now. And then there's a SQL Server authenticated login passwords are stored within the master database. So that's where the locally created SQL Server login passwords reside in the master database. To create a SQL Server authenticated login, we have to just go to Management Studio. So this is a graphical way of doing that. Right click the security node just like we did before, click new, and then click login, and we can create you can create a new SQL Server authenticated login using the create login. So that was the graphical way. We're going to do that, and then there is that create login SQL user with a password, but we're not using the that from Windows statement, because now we're going to create a local SQL Server user, right? So first I'm going to go back and try to do that from the graphical interface. This time it's not the Windows. So again, instance level, under the security, go to new login, and here we're just going for SQL authentication, and it's asking for password as well now, of course, because it's not a Windows user. In Windows user we have already given a password there, but now it's a SQL Server, so it's a totally new account for the SQL Server that's creating there, and the password will be saved in the master database, right? So SQL user 01, if we just create the account there, and of course the class password here. So now all those options are also available. Enforce password policy, enforce password expiration, user must change password at next login, which we can just uncheck now. Map to credential, we're going to be talking about credential a little later, or we can still change the authentication method either to certificate or map to the asymmetric key, but we're just using the SQL Server, how to create SQL Server local users with enforced password policy, which we can uncheck anytime. Press OK here. Of course, again, this is just a simple way to create a local SQL user, as well as, and it's going to show here that where it's coming from, either from domain or from local server, or if it doesn't show domain or local server and just a username, this means that it's a locally created user. This is the same for SA as well, which is the top admin for the highest privileged account for SQL Server. So this is for the graphical interface, and then quickly, if I just go for, this is a very small command even, so I'll just quickly put it there so you guys could just copy that. How to create local logins. So the only difference is that you're not supposed to, so I put the command there for how to create local SQL Server users, just not local Windows local, just the SQL Server users, and you can just put any password here actually. So I'm just gonna go there and quickly create that from there, because we're supposed to check all the commands, so, and just put it in our, I would recommend that you create a Microsoft Word file, and whatever queries we've been using till now, whatever commands we've been using till now, just gather them all in one Microsoft Word document, and put the explanation there and put the screenshots there for your reference, because that's going to be very, very useful, because you've tested all those queries, and that is something, it saves you a huge amount of time. So I'm creating another user. I've already created a SQL user called SQL01. So now I'm creating from the query area, and it's SQL user A with password. So let's just check if it just works like this. Highlight F5, and it works. So I'm just gonna refresh logins area, and there's the SQL user underscore A. So graphical way and the command way. So let's just go ahead quickly here. So certificate authentication, you can create a certificate to be associated with a login if a database master key is present by using the create certificate statement. So as we know that certificates are used for two major things, or mostly they are used for either authentication or the encryption. So we can create a certificate which we can then assign to users that, hey, use this certificate for extra authentication or encryption, extra security. You can just use certificates. For example, to create a certificate to be associated with the login that you want to use with the SQL Server login for, suppose this is a user Dan Bacon, and which expires on the 1st of January 2018. So we're issuing a certificate here. So the following transact SQL statement would work for that. So create certificate. This is the user with subject, and certificates normally are supposed to have information about what domain the user is coming from, what server user is coming from, what is the name of the full username of the user, and what date the certificates are expiring, and for against which database. So that is for security, and let's just try to create that. So I'm just going to put that as well and check if out of the box it just creates it or it just spills out some errors. So why we are creating a certificate? So we can map any user to that certificate for extra security and encryption, right? So it's pasted there, and this expiry date is 2018, 1 January. So let's just use that, try to use that, and try to run that. So yep, it's there from within the server. And Management Studio. So even the commas are okay. It just imported all the commas okay. Strange. But does it work? Create certificate Dan Bacon with subject, but that account we don't have, right? What does it say? SQL Server login for Dan Bacon. Hey, so we're gonna use a user which we have already to assign certificate, but I'm just gonna run that just to see what error it gives. Please create a master key in the database or open the master key in this session before following this operation. Okay, there was a statement for that. If I just use a user that is already there, SQL user 01, I think the same error will come, but I'm just quickly checking that now. SQL user 01, because I've created the user already. So Control C. Control V. F5. Yep, it's the master key. So I need to get that master key statement here, and see the book. When you just follow the book, it does not give the whole query. So I have to go down and check the TechNet and then get the key. But why we are using certificate, and if the master key is there, or if we have the proper query to have the master key for to put in this statement, then it would work. I would still, even if we were able to make it work, we were not further using that. So it is there. We need again asymmetric key. What that's for? Asymmetric. Okay. So we just know that if the master key is there, I'm going to. In fact, I should just put here question marks. So I'm just gonna get you that working script where the master key is also already created, and then we can just create that user. In fact, yeah, SQL Server. So certificate authentication, if you want to attach certificate, this is it, but I need to still send you that statement where it doesn't give this error or pukes this error. There is asymmetric key authentication. You can also use an asymmetric key. So if you don't have certificate or you don't want to use certificate, then you can just you can also use an asymmetric key to authenticate SQL logins. Unlike certificates, asymmetric keys contain both a public key and private key. Anyone understands or knows the concept of public key and private key? Public key and private key. Anyone knows the concept there? Yeah. So, So the public key only encrypts, right? But anyone having a public key of another user cannot decrypt anything. So only private key decrypts or open the message for you. But public key encrypts that, right? Hey, nice song, right? Okay. Okay. So, okay. If there is no database master key, you must provide a password when creating an asymmetric key. So the thing is that you can just use the public key and private key way to get the user or have the user authenticated to the SQL instance to enter the SQL instance. But this has to be set up as well. You create asymmetric keys with the create asymmetric key transact SQL statements. Again, these statements are there. The thing is that we're not going to be further using that, but also book from Microsoft also suggests that this is it. I try my best to make all the queries work, all the statements work, but some of them really requires TechNet. The book, Microsoft book also just says, hey, take this statement and good luck. We don't care if it works or not. So whenever we try to work, something just comes up where our environment is not, according to the production environment or perfectly configured. By the end of the course, hopefully everything will be configured, but we're still learning and we're going one by one. So not every query will be working. In the exam also, I will just add those which we were able to make them work. Also, I just need to correct these queries and send you back, and hopefully you're going to add those to your screenshots. So altering existing logins. So the four methods that we were trying to first talk about were certificate authentication, asymmetric key authentication, that we just need to from graphical interface. We also saw that we can just click a button, and then if we have the proper certificate there, then the certificate authentication and the asymmetric key authentication will work. But Windows authentication and SQL Server authentication, how to create users, we try to see those, we create those users, but how to give permissions as well as make some changes in the users logins. So alter existing logins. You can alter existing logins using SQL Server Management Studio to edit the properties of the login. You can also alter existing logins by using the alter login transact SQL statement. So by graphical interface also, and you can disable a login by using the disable keyword, or enable or disable login by using the enable keyword. But we did create the logins. Did we check them if they really work, or we've been just adding the users till now? These users are added, and they have all the public server role, or the it is not having all privileges to do everything. So if I want to log in from junior SQL developer instead of the SQL domain SQL admin domain admin, so I would be using these credentials. So if I just log out or close this, disconnect this database or the default instance, and I want to log in from either the SQL domain /domain user 01 or that SQL mem02 junior SQL developer. So disconnect that, and if I want to connect to database engine, there's that the database engine, and Windows authentication is there, as well as if we want to use the SQL authentication, we can use that too with SQL user 01. So since SQL authentication is there, if we use SQL user 01, the user we created, and are we able to even log in from that? So first I'm just going for SQL authentication. SQL user authentication. I just wanted to check. Oh, thank God. Oh, one more thing, guys. Oops, not here. Do I have enough space? 13 gigs. Good. If I don't have enough space, this recording will stop and I'll lose everything. Okay. So anyway, just double checking that. Okay, going back. So I was trying to log in from SQL user, so connect, and it says login failed for user SQL 01. Why did it fail? So cannot connect to SQL mem 02, login failed for user 01, .NET SQL, data provider. Because what permissions it has, it depends on that. So cannot connect to SQL mem 2, message login failed, message login failed user 01 was, yeah, that was the user we created, right? Okay, so we're going to give it more privileges so we can try to access that. So one more. So if I just go to Windows authentication, so if I want to use the other credentials, what do I do? Anyone knows that if I want to use the other Windows credentials, why is it grayed out? So I create two users and I cannot use them, right? Or shall I do something else? Any other options? Just like in remote desktop, we can go there, additional connection parameters, enter. Well, that's just for connection parameters, right? So authentication method, connect to database, default, network, default, connection, reset all. So it doesn't let me, right? And even the database engine, so cancel. And if we connect, try to connect to database or another instance, well, that's the only instance I have. So Windows authentication, now we're going to change the permissions and privileges of the other users, so then we can come back here and check, because it's already mapped to that, but are others. So I've just logged in from the same Windows authentication, and then SQL logins are here, and now I have other users here as well. If I go to just SQL domain or SQL admin here, there is, if I right click that user, so there are policies here, and there's new login for the user as well. So if I go to the user here, and we can also either map it. So this is the privilege that the SQL domain admin has, public, and user mapping is to, we can just try to map it to a specific database. But here, if we go down to database role membership for AdventureWorks 2012, or database membership for food database, for master database, for model database for this user, everyone, you will see that database role membership for public is there. But AdventureWorks, it's just a DB owner as well as public. DB owner is having a lot of permissions with it. So just trying to see if this user has what kind of permissions there. right? One more thing is if we go to SQL domain, which we are using already here, and go to properties here, now we can actually change it. Otherwise we were able to so we can change this permissions of this. So sysadmin is showing here, right? Sysadmin, if this is the server role given, you can do anything in SQL Server. So this is for who? SQL admin, because this is the domain admin as well, and during the installation we said that this guy is going to be handling the whole thing in anything in SQL Server. So sysadmin is there. If I just add the sysadmin, press OK. I'm not gonna modify anything. If I go to that junior SQL developer and look at its permissions, properties, and server roles, you can see that sysadmin is not configured for any other user. And if we do configure sysadmin, that will give very high privileges to that user. So the other users are still just public, having a public role, which is limited in many ways. So if I go to any other domain user group, it is from domain, but does it have sysadmin rights? So properties and go to server roles, no. So none of the users we created either from domain or locally, or let me just check local as well. SQL user 01 I've created here. Properties, SQL Server also has just a public role. So if I give domain user 01 sysadmin role now, so right click the domain user 01 which is in the Active Directory, but it just had the public role till now. If I give that person sysadmin as well now and press OK, so this is just domain admin, which did not have previously the sysadmin role. So press OK here after just checking the box sysadmin. How did I go there? Right click properties and then server roles. So if I disconnect, does it still let this user also log in or not? So before that, I'm going to refresh this this configuration, try to disconnect. So Windows authentication, SQL Server authentication, although so we're going to just again try to connect and see what privileges do we need to actually get this user to log in. Also there is another command, there's another utility in shell login. So let me just Google one utility, and that is very cool, that lets you open multiple management studios in one server. I think it's in sysinternals. Shell as login or something like that. Sysinternals. Shall run as, exactly. So if we install this utility, shall run as, it's going to let us open different accounts with different or multiple management studio account logins from one server. So this is just one command. I'm just quickly going to down. It's a very small one, 50 KB only. Whoa, that's too small. Okay, so download shell run as. If you Google that, it's just sysinternals space shell run as. This is just an extra utility that helps us to log in. So shell run as, if I just copy that here somewhere, SQL Server software, shell run as, and It is okay, there it is. So I'm just gonna extract that, copy, C drive. So shell run as is here. Agree, it installs, press OK. So if we go to, so if it installed, and if we go to Management Studio now, run as administrator. So I'm just gonna go to and quickly check this if it's working as expected. It is supposed to give us another run as different users. So this is what it's going to give. You can use this to open any other application and run as different user. So shell run as is not specifically for SQL Server. It's for any other application that you want to run on the same machine as a different user, right? So I just wanted to open this. So it's going to just ask me who this user, which other user you want to be now. So, and it's going to open the Management Studio. So I'm just saying that, hey, can I just log in from that domain user 01, which I created, and it has sysadmin privileges now. Before it has just public privileges. So now it has sysadmin privileges, but can it log in? So now when I have shell run as, it has now, we can just check that SQL domain / domain user 01 for Windows authentication, but can it connect? Yes, it can connect. So that's good. If I want to connect, okay, let's just disconnect and check this again. So it is successfully connecting, which is good. What I want to check is that if I just remove the sysadmin privilege from this user, will that user be able to log in? So if I go down here and this domain user 01, right click, properties, and what I did was I gave that user, if the property is open today, okay, right click. Oh, did I do refresh? Oh, seriously. Okay, what I did was server roles, and I gave that person domain user sysadmin. If I uncheck that now, sysadmin, so, and it has just a public role, will that user be able to still log in or not? So should be, or we're gonna just get the error if it's not, but I'm just going to try to log in from another user through shell run as command. So I'm just gonna go to that Management Studio and go run as different user. So which user you want to run as? Domain user 01 and the password. So it takes us to that authentication, and yes, as a public it connects that. So as a public, what other rights you have? Can you create a new database? Test. Press OK. No. So with just public privileges, you cannot do a lot of things that a sysadmin can do. You cannot create a database, you cannot create a table, you cannot create majority of the stuff when you're just having public server role and you don't have sysadmin. Sysadmin can do actually everything, but I just wanted to show you that yes, you can log in, but that's but you cannot do all the major modifications to databases or tables. This only with public server role you cannot create databases. The database food is not accessible. It's just saying that you have no access to anything because you have public server role. I cannot access anything, right? I cannot open anything. So this is what I wanted to show. Right click, disconnect. So I'm just disconnecting that, just showing that if you remove the sysadmin role, or if the user is just on public role, the user cannot do anything. This is a basic permissions that the user gets. You need to give higher permissions for further tasks. And what are those higher permissions, and how can we know what are those higher permissions? So if we go to the slide here, yes, there's that SQL command as well. SQL user disable, and we can just try the alter login SQL user A disable. So this is very important that you want to totally disable the access or deny access to a user, and you of course should yourself have sysadmin privileges to do that for any user. We did create a user called SQL user A, and now I'm just going to put that on that notepad. So if you're trying that with me, then are you able to disable that user? So this is a very small command here that we can use. Alter login SQL user A disable. SQL user A was a local SQL user. It was inside the SQL server. This user was created, right? So if we are doing that, let's just check that out. So SQL user is created inside the security. If I go security and then logins, SQL underscore user underscore A is there. If I right click that user and properties, yep, everything seems fine. He's also just a public user. This means can't do anything. Securables also show that none of the extra roles are assigned other than connect to SQL, and that's it. Connect to SQL but can't do anything. Status is right now saying grant, right? The SQL user A can at least log in. We're going to deny that as well. So I'm just going to go there, and after denying we need to test it as well, of course. So alter login copy, and then go for the management studio inside, and let's try to disable the access to that guy. And this account is created inside SQL server, right? So there's that. Let's see if it pukes on our oops, sorry for the wrong word. Okay, so yes, it seems the command worked. The user was there's no error. And if we refresh this logins area, and okay, you can see already that there's that red arrow pointing downwards. This means it's disabled now, right? So we can just play with this. If we can disable, so we can enable as well. So we ran the disable, just change it to enable, press F5. It ran successfully as well. It was showing down arrow, so refresh now, and it's up again. Good. So at least this command, whatever we are confirming here, is an asset for us. We can use any of these later. It's always better that you just put all those commands with explanation or one or two screenshots in one Microsoft Word document. So it's a very good reference for you what to do at what time. You don't have to Google anything. You're getting that treasure of all the tested commands already. Anyway, so we can create, enable, disabled access to any user. The rest of the users we created, we now know that they just have public role available, which means that they can't do anything. So we're gonna give them more roles now, and definitely some modified version of these questions will come in the exam. Final one. So you can remove a login by using SQL Server Management Studio. Right click the login and click delete. Yeah, we did that. So if I go there and just show you, when we right click any user, we have that option of delete, right? So this is what it's saying, delete. We can delete that. And of course, if there's a SQL statement, that's gonna work. I mean, you can also remove a login by using the drop login. Okay, drop login transact SQL statement. You cannot drop a login while that login has an active connection. If the user is already logged in, you cannot just delete that user from another higher privileged account, right? So you must make sure that the user is logged off, not connected to the instance, and then you can delete that account. Okay, denying server access, we just did that actually. So denying permission to connect to the database enables you to block specific Windows security principles from making connections to the database engine. You can actually deny access to users to specific database. So there are 10 or 20 databases. You have given some admins the access to maintain for the maintenance to certain databases, but suppose there's a database where there's data for CEO and some directors, and you don't want the junior admins to actually access those databases and mess with them, or some mistake happens and their databases are offline. So you can actually deny access to certain databases to certain users, which is a very cool feature. That we can just go granular with that. So status page, permission on the status page of the login properties dialog box. To deny access by using transact SQL, use a deny connect statement from the master database. And this is the statement that we can, so if we, and this is the picture as well showing that there is permission to connect to database engine itself. Actually, this is not just specific database, although that feature is there. This is just for, you can't even connect to the database engine. Before we could basically connect, but we cannot do anything because of the public server role. Now you are just denying altogether the permission to log in even. So that same user SQL server, if I copy this script there, I'm just gonna put it up there on the notepad. So this script is there, and after applying this script to the user domain user, so just change your domain. I just put that script there, just SQL domain. Oops, I'm just changing that there. Actually, I should have changed here. And domain, if you've created the account with me, domain user 01, I've just changed that now. So if you get it now, it's already changed. So all we need to make sure is then we're going to go for a shell run as and try to log in from that domain user now, which we were able to access before. Through this we can access the database, but now after running this, if it's successful, the user should not be able to log in. So if I go there, yes, this is the code. Let's just run it from our privileged account and execute. And it says something is incorrect syntax near. Okay, SQL domain and domain user 01. So what is it expecting? A comma. See, the book just throws us at us, and then we have to really gather up all the. If I just execute this one near SQL domain. Now it didn't work, right? Yeah. So yeah, I need to. Okay, that was just a column. So it should colon here. And it's saying now it's not supposed to be a column. Seriously. Normally it's a comma and then actually. So did I connect SQL? Okay, so anyway, I'm just gonna try to, so I have 3 scripts now to send you. Okay, how do we do that from graphical interface? We can still do that, right? Script login as, so there's a connect, drop to, drop and create to, and there's no deny here, right? Okay, so I'm just going to go to properties here. What we were doing through transact SQL was this. If you go to the status, we can just disable the login or permission to connect to a database engine, deny, and settings. So if we just do that from here, so press OK. So I just went to SQL user A and then went to properties and then clicked deny. So I'm just gonna go for refresh now and I'll quickly launch another session, shall run as session or login as a separate user, and there you go again, run as a different user. Go to domain user 01. Okay, and domain 01 connect, and yay, we are not denied access. What? Okay, so if we are okay, disconnect again quickly. What didn't work? So domain user, right click, properties. Let's just deny full. Oh, I did deny it, but it did not accept my denial. Just now, as a desperate last attempt, I'm just gonna deny and disable everything and press OK, and yes, it shows the down arrow here. So I'm just gonna quickly check that guy again. So going to the SQL management and going run as different user, and then domain user 01, enter, and when it connects to the management studio, and now it is denied. The account is disabled. So disable just disables the account, but deny access somehow should have worked, but it didn't work, or maybe I did not do refresh, or so it effectively disables the account. So now you cannot log in. And if you know the other side, the other management studio is still open, and if I just go back to properties and go to status and enable the account but deny access now. So I enabled the account but deny access, right? Press OK. It's still down arrow is showing there. I'm still on the second screen with that domain user 01, and by now it should reach. Okay, yes. So login failed now. Now the error is different, right? So when I disabled, the error was different. When I enabled it but still kept it on deny access, the error is different. So this would be a perfect final exam test. Anyway, screenshots. This is you know, I'm just going to keep that open for domain user, and we're going to just check different permissions as well. So server roles. The server roles enable you to simplify the assignment of permissions at the database instance level. So now server roles are what we can play with to give permissions and privileges to different users, right? So although it is possible to assign permissions to SQL logins, this can be difficult to manage in all but the smallest environments. Okay, permissions are assigned to server roles rather than to individual logins. So now this is a separate thing to understand that we can just play with server roles, which just enabling any one of them gives server-wide permissions to any user who's added to that. So to grant a set of permissions to a specific SQL login, add the login to a server role. SQL Server 2012 ships with 9 built-in server roles. These built-in server roles are fixed and other than the public role. It is not possible to modify the permissions assigned to these roles. How do we do that? So first, what are those 9 built-in roles? And then we go ahead and check how can we add. So there's the sysadmin role we were talking about, the most powerful in SQL Server. Sysadmin role members can perform all activities possible on the database engine instance. So it could be anything, right? So we're not supposed to give this sysadmin to everyone, or we should be very careful when we're giving this. You specify initial membership of this role when performing installation of the database engine. Yes, only one account we just give that to, and it has all the permissions and privileges to do anything. Server admin role. So role members can perform instance-wide configuration tasks. Members of this role can shut down the instance. Then there is security admin role. Assign this role to logins that must be able to manage instance level permissions. Okay. So because this role can configure permissions at instance level, membership in this role allows the elevation of privileges on logins and user-defined server roles to the equivalent of those assigned to the sysadmin fixed server role. So security admin also, you should be very careful if you are adding someone to that role, because it could also give you the ability to assign anyone the server sysadmin roles. So process admin, role members can terminate processes running on a database engine instance. Setup admin, role members can add linked servers to and from linked servers from the database engine. If you have any other SQL server connected to yours, they can access that. Bulk admin, assign this role to logins that you want to allow to use the bulk insert statement. We just use those statements. If you don't want to give a user any other higher privilege, then you can just give, and you want the user to import export a lot of data, so you could just give bulk admin role to that user, and the user would not be touching anything and not creating any database, not creating or modifying or deleting any table or database, but only importing and exporting the data itself. So disk admin, role members can manage instance related files. DB creator, role members are able to create, alter, drop, and restore databases hosted on the database engine. So that's very important role, DB creator. You're giving database whatever you want to do with the database, all types of tasks, whoever is added to this role. Then public role, that's what every user we create gets by default. This role is by default, every user has that, right? So all SQL Server logins are members of this role. You can alter the permissions assigned to this role, but you cannot alter the membership of the role. So everyone basically always have public role. But we try to do, try to test that role, that can we create a database, can we create a table. We cannot do anything if we are logged in, if we have just the public role assigned to us. So you can use the alter server role transact SQL statement to modify the membership of a server role. You use the add member option to add a server principal and the drop member option to remove a server principal. For example, to add the Contoso domain login to the server admin fixed server role, execute this statement: alter server role, server admin, add member. So this is another simple query I'm putting there on the notepad. So what it will do is it's going to add a member to the server admin role, right? So I'm just gonna quickly try that, and then we're gonna double check if this really happened. Domain user, okay, for now I don't need that. Domain user, alternate management studio. So going to this, and we need to make certain changes here. So SQL domain I'm putting there. SQL admin. Oops, not SQL admin. Hello. Okay, so SQL admin, who should we give this? Domain users. Okay, domain user 01. So if we just run that, cannot add the server principal because it does not exist, or you do not have permission, because we just disabled or denied access to domain user. We cannot modify anything unless it has access to login, right? So I'm just gonna change the access for SQL domain user 01 properties, and go to status and then grant, right? So press OK. Well, the down red arrow is gone, so maybe we can just work it at it now. So if I select that and press F5, now it says because it does not exist, or you don't have permission. I don't have permission. How dare you say that? Really? Hey, I have all the permission. Really? Okay, I'm logged in as SQL admin, and I have sysadmin rights. So let me check my rights now. If I could find that, yeah, there it is. So properties, status, and server roles. So I am sysadmin. So sysadmin can do anything, right? But here you can just add any server role. So what we were trying to add was server admin to the domain user 01. If I go to the domain user 01 here, right click the domain user 01, go to properties, and go to server roles here. So server admin role is this one. This is what we were trying to assign through transact SQL. But if we press OK, does it let us do that? Yep, it does. So through SQL statement, it doesn't. But from graphical interface, I was able to add the same server admin role for this domain user, or for any user, or for a group. So if I right click a domain group, properties, server roles, I can give that whole group any of the role, and all the members will get that role, right? So the 9 server roles are these, and we talked about these, and this is how we can add users to the server roles. You can use the following commands, views, and functions to learn more about the properties of specific server roles. So these are very important commands if they run successfully. What permissions each server role has, very important. That we need to know, if we add this guy to this role, how much privileges that guy will get, that person will get, right? So if I just run this command now, ignore all, right click, copy, I'm putting that command up there. Let's just put that there, and come back here, provide the list of fixed server roles, then provide fixed server role membership, and okay, let me just put all these instead. So whenever, as a when you're an administrator there and there's a junior admin, you want to give assign some role, but you want to be careful that what roles should this user have and what roles this user should not have. So there are those roles. So if I go for SP help server role, should give me the list of all the roles. So let's just run that and check it out. I think it's supposed to be from the command prompt. Execute. Nope, that gives us exactly what we need. So but it's just underlined with if it's. So these are the roles that are showing from this command. If we run the other commands, that's going to show us. So provides fixed server role membership. So let's just check that. If we go back and run this command, execute, now it shows membership. So sysadmin has, so this is showing the membership of all the users having. So my user from which I'm logged in, it's a sysadmin user. I mean, it has the sysadmin roles. This role is given to SQL admin, SQL writer, Win management. So this is just giving us a very good insight into who is getting what role. So SA, which I was saying the most powerful account, also has sysadmin role, and of course our domain admin account also has sysadmin role. So this help server role member, who is the member of which server role is this is showing here. So this is very good insight into how many users have what kind of role. And your boss says, okay, just tell me who has what kind of role. So you would just run this command and see that, oh, this guy is not supposed to have that role, so you can just remove that role from that person, right? So then there is that SP role permission. So if I copy that, maybe this was what I was looking for. So this server role permission, highlight F5. Now this exactly is what I was looking for, and this is a perfect quiz question, what these commands are and what do they do. So SP_SRV role permission, each role has what kind of permission, right? So DB creator, add member, DB creator, alter database, create, drop. So DB creator, you can see a lot of stuff the DB creator role can do, and whoever has that role can do all these tasks, right? But which role has the most powers, most privileges? I think sysadmin should have a very long list, and you can see that sysadmin goes way down. It can just do everything. So the permissions of these roles really give us an insight of what you're adding that person to, or any person, or to yourself as well. So server admin can do lesser stuff than sysadmin. Security admin can do still a lot of stuff. So this is very good insight into what roles I should add when I'm just trying to add some guy to this any of the particular server roles. This command is specifically very useful, server role permission. And also this server role member is very useful, that now I know that which user account has what role is assigned to what role. So domain user is given server admin. Maybe I know already that the person who is using domain user 01 is not that technical. So I would definitely go and investigate that why this guy has been assigned, this person has been assigned server admin, when I know personally that person does not have that technical ability. So I could just give that person any other server role, or just altogether don't give any role other than the public role, which doesn't do anything other than login. So Let's just go ahead. Very useful commands. There are further commands here. As role member enables you to check whether a SQL Server login is a member of a specific fixed or user-defined server role. Are there others? So I'm just going to put these up there as well, so you could check it as well. But these are very useful commands and give a very good insight into what roles are there and who is. So if you want to secure your SQL Server, these are the commands that gives you a bird's eye view of what's going on in your SQL Server, who has what kind of role, and are they even supposed to have those roles or not. So if we go ahead, so these were the logins that we were talking about till now, and then there's then user-defined roles as well. So we know that already server-defined roles are there, and we ran those commands to know that, oh, these are the roles, and that's what fixed tasks these roles are doing. But maybe there's a scenario that you would want to assign a role to a new SQL admin that just got hired in your company, and you want to give a set of permissions which are not covered in any of the roles. Maybe there are some permissions in a role that you want to give to that new DBA, but still there are some other permissions in that same role that you don't want to give to that DBA. So you can come up with your own set of permissions and create your own new role as well, which is a very cool feature. You can use user-defined server roles to create custom server roles when using one of the existing server roles does not suit your specific requirements. So any of the roles may have the requirements you want, but you fulfill your requirements, but some of the permissions in that same role you don't want to give to the other person. So that's where you can go for custom server roles or user-defined roles. In SQL Server Management, right-click the security, then server role node, and then click new server role as well. So is there a new server role there? So we can just create that new server role by going to security, then server roles. So let's just go there and check it out. So there is security, and there you go, there is a server role here, and we can actually create our custom server roles. And there's a nice beat here somewhere. Oh, okay. So yeah, we can have a background music as well with that, because this is a very exciting topic anyway. So if there's a so this is very good. Anyone else has that Mission Impossible tune? Okay, anyway. So let's just go for server roles. So custom roles, can we create those roles? We already have 9 roles there, but maybe you think that, oh, I'm going to customize, take some permission from there, take some permission from here, and create my own role here. Server role, it's just showing that you can just create a server role for server role name, and for new DBAs that are for interns, for maybe you're gonna be doing internship somewhere, and so your SQL Server admin might create a custom role for you, and you can just design. So securables, you can go for, yes, that person can log in, or servers, which server do you want that person to log into? Whoever is part of that role can log into maybe just this server. And in that server, when the person logs in, what kind of roles you want that person to have, alter any login, alter anything you want that person, connect SQL, control server. So there are a long list of commands. View server state, maybe you want the person to view the first time and don't do anything, and specifically don't shut down anything. And maybe the interns go, oh, how do we shut down a SQL server with 30,000 connections? already. So yeah, create any database, and on the day one we can just give view commands, view permissions for that server, or for first 2 or 3 months, until if that intern is having good links with your boss, then of course you have to give them system admin, him or her. So anyway, that's availability groups, and no permissions available here. Server roles, nothing popping up here. But if we go for members, yes, then we can add members to that, memberships. Now you can give some of the roles here. DB creator, suppose if you're choosing that role, this is very sensitive role. It's going to create databases, it's going to let you create databases, right? So these are some of the things that we can do. You can do logins as well. So when you log in, what you get there explicitly: permissions for selected logins, alter, control, impersonate, view definition. We're going to be talking about impersonate as well. It's not hacking term. It's a feature inside SQL Server. So we can just give any role assigned to that. A combination of, maybe we need more roles added to this custom role. So we can add server admin as well as DB creator, but not setup admin, not security admin, not process admin. We can just go ahead and try to give as many. So just press OK here, and if we press OK, there should be a 10th role here, which is this server role, and in there it says for interns. And maybe we can just add, so it's in the server roles now, right? So we can go back to logins here. I can just right click the domain user 01, right, and go properties and go to server roles, and there's our new role now added here, custom role. So instead of giving server admin only, so the public as well as just this server role we're giving. For interns, this is a lot, which I selected. It should not be, DB creator should not be given to interns specifically. So this is how we can create custom roles. The roles will appear here, and then we can actually assign it to the users, right? Not very difficult, and we get to test it as well. Okay, so then there is credentials. Credentials store the authentication information that facilitates a connection to a resource external to the database engine instance. Okay, in English. So you can map a single credential to multiple SQL logins, but it is only possible to map a single SQL login to one credential. So we can define credentials that can log into multiple SQL servers, and credentials store the authentication information. It stores the authentication information first that facilitates a connection to a resource external to the database engine instance. So we need to check it out more. You can also use the create credential transact sequence. Let's just try to do that. So maybe a user who have already can log into the SQL server, you want to give that user, and especially it is for those accounts which have been created inside the SQL server. So if that SQL server account wants to have access to an FTP login to a remote FTP site, which is external to, it's a resource that is external to a SQL server, right? So this command will give permission, will create a credential that behind that credential, that user is already a local SQL server user, and that user behind that credential can also access a remote FTP site. Wherever you want to give permission to that credential, that SQL server user will have access to those areas as well, and they're outside the SQL server itself. So this is the statement for that. Create credential, remote FTP, So, but it will work only to create a credential named remote FTP that uses the FTP login identity and the password. Execute the following. Suppose we already have an account called remote FTP, and that remote FTP accesses remote FTP. So there's a file transfer for a site, file where you can download the files from, and then you want this user to also have access to that. So we can also give that. But how do we do that? There is that remote FTP account that we can use, and then there's a graphical interface for new credential, and credential name, identity, password, use encryption provider. So let me just go to the graphical interface first and check what is credential, where is credential there. So it's it shows here. Hey, that's a good one, man. So the class oblivious of what's going on around. There's a okay. So new credential here, and this is how it is showing there. But what does the where do we go for identity? It could be any of the Windows authentication methods, Windows security principles that you can, or user you can add and connect it or map it to the SQL server. So if we just go for remote FTP example here, so I just right click the credential here, remote FTP credential name, and then I can go for Active Directory, and the user is where was the user? There was a domain group as well created. So domain user, let's just do that. There's only one user I have. So check name here, press OK, password. User encryption provider. If we have an encryption provider or a certificate or PKI infrastructure here, we can just do that. But what we are defining here is that suppose this user has access, the Windows domain user has access to any remote FTP site, and it already has privileges to access that. So we are creating that credential here inside the SQL server. Press OK. So the credential is created. So we can just go for here properties and try to check if it is so creation of credential is there, and new credential we can do that, refresh. But if I just go back to my logins and go to domain user and new login, so script login as policies, it was properties. So see this map to credential. So this user, domain user 01, or let's not go for domain users, let's go for the local SQL server user. Properties, SQL server user. Now we can map the credential to this remote FTP, right? So what does that mean? The SQL server, local SQL server, local user inside the SQL server can have access to remote FTP connectivity as well if that user, if that credentials are mapped for that user, right? So this is how we can map. The SQL statement is there, but just wanted to show in the graphic interface what it means really. And so we went to the SQL user 01, and then we went to map to credential, and that credential was added here, remote FTP. This means that that user is supposed to have access to some resource that is outside the SQL server environment. So pressing OK here, the credential is added for that user, right? So let's just go ahead and check out some. So I'm just going to put that what we did in the graphical interface, that script, not script, the statement here on Notepad. So we have all these set of scripts that we are testing, and if they are tested correctly, we are good to go. I mean, we can just use them, right? Not good to go. So I'm just going to go back here and try this script as well, so we could just put it in our treasure of tested scripts and statements. So create credential, remote FTP with identity, FTP login, secret, password. Does it just work? 5. And it says credential with name, remote FTP already exists. Of course. Why am I doing that? Okay, so remote web connection, remote SFTP. There's another way. Secure FTP is also there, right? So it just uses encryption. Yeah, so the command works as well. And the credential should be created here, then SFTP. If I refresh here, yep, there's a credential here, and we can just map it to any of the users here, and that user should have access to that SFTP site as well, which is outside the SQL environment. Okay, so credentials, we've done credentials. Database users. Database users represent the identity of a SQL Server login when connected to a database. Each database user maps to a SQL Server login, except in the special case of contained databases. But let's just go ahead and test this and try this. Database users represent the identity of a SQL Server login when connected to a database. So each database user maps to a SQL Server login. Okay, let's check that out. So you can configure a database user to use the same name as login to simplify the process of quickly identifying the relationship between a database user and a SQL Server login. So there's a difference between SQL Server login and a database user. It seemed like that the user we are using to log into the SQL environment is the database user. But no, database user is a separate entity, and SQL Server login is separate. So you can map a SQL Server login to only one database user in each database. Let's just put it to test a little. So you can map a single login to different users in different databases if you follow the one database user per SQL Server login per database. Wow, that was easy. So you can map a single login to different users in different databases as long as it's one database user per SQL Server login per database. So if we just put that one database user, well, that's representing per actually. Per SQL Server login per database. But anyway, let's not get confused with that. So you can assign database level permissions directly to database users. It is best practice to assign database level permissions to database level roles and then add database users to those roles. Just like we were just playing with the server roles, now server defined roles, there is database level roles as well. And you can just give to specific databases access to users, so specific users. A security principle requires the alter any user permission on the database to be able to create a database to be able to create database users. To create database user by using SQL Management Studio when there is an existing SQL Server login, perform the following steps. Just go to before we were playing inside the security container on the server level or the instance level. Now we can play, or we can go inside any of the particular or specific database and just open the security container for that particular database. and then right click users node and click new user. The thing is that whatever users you're creating, you can map it to any login. So let me just show you where it is doing what. So when we say login, this is the login. When I hover around here, at the end of this line, you can see that SQL domain / SQL admin. This is the login credential. So then there is this security container where we were playing on the instance level. Now we can go to database and AdventureWorks, suppose, and then there's a security level there as well. And then we can create actually users here. We can add roles here. So DBO is the permission for database owner. If we go to DBO in the users and go to properties, so the Windows user, username DBO, owned schemas. So these are all the schemas owned by this user. Membership, DB owner. DBO is DB owner. So DBO just means that who has the permission to that. If we add a database user, attach that database user or map that database user to this login, and then we can give permission to different databases through this user. So let's just create one and just try to do that. So there are database users, then there are database roles as well. Database roles are, oh, there's a lot. Access admin, backup operator. So we're going to be taking backups of database, and of course that role has to be there. So it could go down that granular, it could go down to that specific level of permissions that you can give to different users in databases. DB data reader, data writer, DDL admin, deny data reader, deny data writer, owner, security admin, public. And then application roles. There are schemas here that we're going to be discussing. And then there are asymmetric keys that we can define, certificates we can define. Symmetric keys means both have the same key. Asymmetric just means that one has public key, one has private key. And database audit specification. So what we are doing here is, if we create a user, right click, new user. Under security, I'm inside the database AdventureWorks right now. Under security, right click the users, new user, and there's a SQL user with login, or SQL user without login, user map to a certificate, user map to a symmetric key, or Windows user. This user we can decide. So, well, if we go to Windows users, because we like Windows, maybe, and then we can just define any user. Well, we have just one user on which we are doing all the experimentation till now. Domain user. Check name, that's okay. Objects, so object type, login and browse. Which login user you want to map this user to? So already, well, login user is also domain user. That's okay. So username for this is just on database level, you're adding another user and logging in. So this doesn't make sense that why would I use this or add a Windows user there. I could just go for SQL user with login or a local SQL user there instead of doing this. So if I have SQL user 01, which I am attaching to this login here, and default schema is actually DBO. So what levels of permissions you want this user to have, this specific user to have? Access admin permission, backup operator, data reader, writer, or DB admin, DDL admin actually, or you just want to go for the whole DB owner permission, right? So, oh, sorry.
We've got a 1 o'clock here.
1 o'clock. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a change. Yeah, we're just finished. I'm just actually done.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry.
2 more minutes.
12:56. Oh, too involved.